Hello there. So today, we are going to get into a really common point of confusion for Russian speakers learning English, the words each and every. And you know why it's so tricky, right? It's because in Russian, you have that one fantastic word, каждый, and it covers everything. But in English, it's not about a simple translation. Nope. It's about learning to see the world in a slightly different way.
Okay, so let's try a little experiment. How would you translate this sentence right here? Каждый студент получил книгу. Now, in Russian, каждый is perfect, but in English, you have a choice. Do you say each student or every student? What do you think? Well, here's the interesting part. Both of them can be correct. And figuring out why is exactly what we're here to do. Look, if you aren't sure which one to pick, you are in good company. This is a super common question. The secret here is to stop trying to find a direct one-to-one translation for каждый. The real answer isn't in a dictionary. It's actually in your imagination. It all comes down to how you are picturing the group in your mind. So what is this new way of seeing things? It really just boils down to one simple idea. Seriously, if you remember only one thing from this whole explainer, make it this. The difference is thinking one by one versus thinking all together. That's it. That is the key that unlocks everything. I want you to think about it like a camera lens. When you use the word each, you're zooming in. You're focusing on one person, then the next person, then the next. It's individual. But when you use every, you're zooming out. You're seeing the entire group at once as a single unit. One is individual, the other is collective. And this isn't just some abstract grammar rule, you know? It actually has to do with something called cognitive focus. Basically how your brain likes to organize information. Think of these words as little instructions you give your brain. Each says, hey brain, think of these as a list of separate things. And every says, okay brain, see all of these as one big collection. Okay, so let's follow that first instruction. Let's zoom in on that one-by-one idea and really dig into how and when you should be using each. So we use each when we really want to highlight the individual members of a group, one at a time. It often hints at an action that happens in a sequence. So let's go back to our first sentence. Saying the teacher gave each student a book is a fantastic choice because you can almost see it happening, can't you? You picture the teacher giving a book to student number 1, then to student number 2, then student number 3. It's an individual, step-by-step action. Now here's a simple but really important rule. Each is perfect for smaller, very specific groups, even a group that only has 2 members. For instance, you could say, she held a phone in each hand. You're thinking about them one by one. Hand number 1 and hand number 2. All right, let's change our focus now. Time to zoom that camera lens back out, look at the big picture, and talk about every and that idea of all together. We pull out the word every when we're thinking about the group as a whole. We're not interested in the details, we just want to make a general statement about all the members combined. For example, every student passed the exam. See the difference? Here, we don't care about the individual's scores. We care about the final collective result for the whole class. Did the class succeed? Yes, they did. And here's another small but pretty important difference. While each works for groups of 2 or more, every almost always talks about a group of 3 or more. Think about it. You have each hand because you have 2, but you would talk about every finger on your hand because you have more than 2. Every just feels bigger, you know? Okay, so now that we've got the general feeling behind the words, let's nail down some specific grammar rules. These are the ones you'll want to remember, especially for exams or for more formal writing. This little table sums up the 3 biggest grammar rules you absolutely need to know. First up, and this is a big one, notice that both words take a singular verb, always. Second, when you're talking about abstract ideas, you can't really use each. And third, when you're using the word not, it's much, much more common to use every. Okay, let's break these down real quick. All right, rule number 1. The verb is always singular. I know this can feel a little strange, especially for Russian speakers, because you're talking about a group of people. But in English grammar, the focus is on that single word, each or every. So we say, each of the players is ready, not are ready. Same for every player is ready. This is a huge one to get right. Next up, abstract nouns. We're talking about things you can't really touch or count, like reason, hope, confidence. Since each forces your brain to think one by one, it just doesn't work well with these concepts.
You can't line up reasons and count them like books. So for these ideas, you have to use every to mean the total amount. The only correct way to say this is, I have every reason to be happy.
And finally, let's talk about negation. What if you want to say that something is true for some people in a group, but not for all of them? Well, the clearest, most natural way to say this in English is with the phrase, not every. For instance, not every student passed the exam. That tells us that some students did pass, but some failed. It's the standard way to say it.
Okay, you've got the main ideas, you've got the rules, now for the fun part. Let's look at a few powerful phrases that native speakers use all the time. Learning these is really going to make your English sound more natural and a lot more confident.
You've probably heard someone say this before, each and every. So why would you use both words together? Well, it's all about maximum emphasis. It's like you're saying, I am thinking of you all together as one big group, and I am also thinking of each one of you as a special individual. It's very powerful, and it leaves no room for misunderstanding. You'll hear it a lot in speeches.
Here's another little trick for emphasis. You can add the word single right after every. This just makes the statement stronger. It really underlines the fact that there were zero exceptions. You know, saying he ate every single cookie just sounds a bit more dramatic than he ate every cookie. It means not even one crumb was left.
And finally, let's quickly look at some really common phrases with every. Now pay close attention to the first two because this is a really common mistake. Every day, 2 words, tells us how often something happens. I go to the gym every day. But every day, 1 single word, is an adjective that just means normal or ordinary. These are my everyday shoes. Then you've got every other day, which means alternating, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And every now and then, which is just a nice way to say sometimes.
So after all that, it really just comes down to this simple 3-step process. Before you speak, before you write, just pause and ask yourself, how am I picturing this? If you're seeing individuals, thinking one by one, your word is each. If you're seeing the whole group all together, your word is every. It really is that simple.
And there you have it. That's the real difference. So I'll leave you with one last thing to think about. Now that you know this isn't just about grammar, but it's about perspective, how will this idea of switching your focus from one by one to all together change the way you describe the world in English? Something to consider. I hope this was useful. Thanks for tuning in.